Welcome to New Rechts, or for our English listeners, New Right. My name is Daniel de Liever, and I'm happy today to talk about the political situation in Austria. And to do this, I'm happy today to talk to Elisabeth Dieringer. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And for those that don't know you, you're a member of the European Parliament for the right-wing party FPÖ, and that I think quite a lot of people have heard about before. But before we actually get into the topic of today, the Austrian politics, which there's a lot to do about, let's start a little bit with the introduction. Maybe you can tell a little bit more of your background to our listeners so they know who we're talking to.
Okay, hello to everybody. I'm from Austria, as you heard, but I'm proud also to present my region where I'm from. So I'm from the south of Austria, Kärnten. I guess it's also well known, not only because we have a wonderful place, but because it's the home region, let's say it in this way, also of Jörg. So, we have always had a really strong right-wing position in India. And I'm working now for the party now for a lot of years. I'm 50 years old, and I was working in the city council, so I was working in the regional parliament, and I have since last year I worked as a teacher. So this is
Great.
what I would like to tell about me and also my professional background.
That's great. I'm also quite curious. How did you actually get into politics? Because you were a teacher. You also already was on a local level part of politics. But how did this grow? What was your inspiration?
My inspiration, it started all in my family because it's thanks to my parents. They always talked to us about what's going on in the world, and they always supported us to have an own opinion. And my vision is that you have to go to politics to enter, to be part. And so, because this gives you the opportunity to be part of this decision-making process and to change something that affects a lot of people.
That's very true. And I think if you talk about where a lot is happening, for better or for worse, but European politics is nowadays becoming more and more important to what we're going through. A lot of, I guess, some similar issues in a lot of countries, like, for example, overregulation, immigration. There are quite a lot of them. How is it for you to be part of the European Union or being part of the European Parliament? I mean, specifically as a politician, what's your experience like?
As I said before, I don't want to be part of a system. I want more about acting in a system. So that it's the most important issue to be here and to be proud to being part now of a really strong group, so the Patriots, because we are a lot now, and that I can be a representative of my hometown, my home region, and for all the Austrians, and that's what I see and hear all over. So we are more than 700 members, but they count on you. And it's not that also one person can change something, because all the great processes started because one person, two person, three persons got convinced of an idea, and I have to go on and to be strong and becoming more important every day. But I think we will talk about it maybe later on. So it's always one of my, I wanted to be part, always. It's a long time that I wanted to work here. It's an international group, and to be part of the now so really controlling most of the way saying parliament, which is controlling our daily life.
I think that's a good point. It's always easier to complain about things when you're just not trying to actually at least have some impact on it. Like you said, we'll talk about it also a bit later. But now our main topic, of course, is the Austrian politics. For people that don't know, last year at the last elections, the FPÖ, your party, became the biggest. It's a little bit similar to what we see in some other countries, like, for example, in my home country, the Netherlands, where you, of course, have the PVV of Geert Wilders, who became the biggest party in the last elections. What do you think is the reason why so many people in Austria voted for the FPÖ to make them the biggest party?
thanks, first of all, to all the voters who trust in us. And this is what I think it's nowadays a little bit also denied by all the established parties. And we talk about the things and we try to change the things that they want, that are for them important. So for me, one of the most important things in nowadays, and especially when I'm talking now about also my hometown, I guess everybody knows Villach now all over the world, where a 14-year boy died. So one of the great topics for all Austrians is the migration and their identity. So this is a topic that we are for years now talking about. And also we have social issues that we care about that are also very important for, let's call it the daily life. So we don't talk about I guess, topics that are so far away from everybody. So we try to be part of the normal life, and that we have to. The people have a lot of problems. They are looking how they can buy something, how they can afford the daily life, and so that is why we are so important. And another thing is, as it is also in the name of my party, the freedom. Let's call it also the freedom of speech, that you are not controlled every day, because also this is going on, I guess, all over Europe. And so we are there for the people, and we are not part of the establishment.
It's a fair point. You said social issues. What kind of social issues do you think people in Austria care the most about at the moment? What is things that people worry about?
That in time of now economic crisis, it's also the employment. They are worried about how will it go on with. As we can talk about the economic, a lot of now we have a lot of problems. That the industry is also in big troubles because of all the decisions that we make. We'll call it the Green Deal, or if you talk to the farmers, they feel controlled by all the from the European Union, and so they count on us. They count on us not only in Austria, they count on us then also as representatives in the European Union.
Yes, I think that's recognizable even for a lot of Dutch listeners. I think a lot of these things are in some way sadly similar. I guess the irony was, like, a few weeks ago I did an interview with an Austrian who now works in Hungary, Ralf Schulhammer, and at that moment that we were doing the interview, we were mostly talking about how we were finally going to get a FPÖ-led coalition. At that time, the FPÖ was still negotiating with ÖVP about the coalition. It was looking, at least from my and his point of view, it was looking like this was going to happen. Of course, the big elephant in the room is we're now talking here. It did not happen. Why do you think actually there's now no government with FPÖ, and why the ÖVP went with some other parties that we will talk about a little bit later?
I guess it's also like here in the European Parliament. The established parties try to work together. They don't think about the nations, about the people. They only think about their own interests. They don't want to lose power. They don't want to to accept that we are the winners. So they didn't give us all the normally they should be talking about ministers. So they didn't want to get us ministers in some most very important topics. So it's really that it's also, I call it, it's not the democratic way of life, what they are doing on, and they can't accept at all that we are the strongest party. And what is also very, very concerning, that they talked for more than 100 days with the others, then supported by Van der Bellen, our president, because he excluded us the first time. Then we had some weeks of negotiations, and then we turned back to the point of return. And in 3 days, with all the others, they couldn't even talk anymore. They got a government. It's really strange, and the people are very disappointed in Austria. When you listen to the Austrians, they are disappointed about the situation.
I can imagine that because most people voted for you. Do you think there was any topic specifically? Of course, we're going to also talk a little bit about some claims of the ÖVP about specific ministries and stuff. But do you think there's any specific topics outside of that, like policy-wise, that you have such a fundamentally different view than, for example, the ÖVP and other parties, that it's kind of impossible to form a coalition, or you don't think that?
No, I don't think so, because our positions always have been clear, always have been the same. It's not that we entered in negotiations with other topics, so they know what we are and why we are elected for. You can see also the polls, that when you see it, and what was the decision of the people, it's like also to be skeptic, especially what's going on in the European Union. And I think it's not a secret that we have different points of views, but we can talk about everything. But if you don't want to talk, and if you resist and stay on your points of view, it doesn't work at all.
It's a fair point. I think for a lot of right-wing Austrians, this is unfortunate. I'm also quite curious. I think for people that don't know, at least what I saw in the media was that, especially the internal ministry, that ÖVP did not want to give this up to FPÖ. And there was this claim, FPÖ is a danger for national security of Austria because their alleged ties with Russia. And this is the claim of ÖVP. What do you think about this accusation that ÖVP is making, and that this is in the end the factor that made it that ÖVP did not form a coalition with FPÖ?
No, they try to accuse us for such a lot of things, but we said it loud and clear that we also, our position now to Russia is that there must be peace, and we have to talk about this, but we also said that from the beginning on that it was not okay what happened in the first days, how Russia entered into the Ukraine. But we said that they have to stop with all the sanctions, because you see the war is still going on, and but they are telling so many stories about all of us. But I don't know if this is I know that this is not the only reason why they stopped the negotiations with us. So we know what we are talking. We have a position, and but there is nothing that there's a great friendship or whatever they are talking about. It's not true at all.
It's good, but it's important to have to ask you, because it's also a big elephant in the room, and I guess especially this is what I notice in international media. Of course, we like, for example, us in rechtse, we try to cover also what's happening in countries from a little bit of a different perspective from, let's say, the mainstream, mostly left-wing media, let's be honest. But it's hard for people to make up their mind about so many countries. I think Austria is one of them. Hungary, of course, is one of them. How do you actually feel about how also the international media or the international perspective is on the FPÖ and the situation in Austria at the moment?
It's like also we have the medias which are part of the system, and thanks to you and thanks to others now, and also I think thank you to social media, we have now other ways to say what's going on, and more and more, especially the young people, are trying to find also a new way of being informed. But I won't say that's only the young people who try to find other informations, and so it's so important that we have the alternative media and the world where we can say what's really going on. And I can only see that we are used to it. Some of us are used to this, that what's going on in with the media wall. But this is why we are here. It's also so important to fight for the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and to be here as a counterpart to all the others. So the DSA and all the other topics that we are always discussing here.
It's an excellent point. And yes, I think we also sometimes get some hatred. To give an example, I think a few weeks ago we had an event about immigration with some speakers, etc. And we needed 70 policemen to protect the event from Antifa, to make sure that we actually could host the event. So I I can relate and feel to what you're saying. There's a lot of hate going on, and that's why it's good that we have some alternative ways now to communicate with each other and show other people different perspectives.
Yes, and this is why it's important to have also strong groups like the Patriots, that we are from different countries, because we are
Yes.
becoming more and more every day, and so you can also
Hmm.
support each other, talk about the experience you have. If we are looking to Germany, like the AfD, a small group now becoming always more and more important, and
Hmm.
so we have to stay together as the others did for a long time.
For
And
sure.
not to act how they do. It's not that I would like to be like them. So, like
Hmm.
when we have a reunion or something like that they come and stay outside and they are all demonstrating. In my time, I have something better to do than going when they are meeting, because it's also a kind of respect to other political
Hmm.
groups, and they don't even have it.
Yes, I agree. I think this is a new thing on the right. I think in Europe that there's more collaboration, and I think that's it's very good. I think we have had our time of, let's say, more solistic ways of working, and I think that doesn't work. And I think we can agree on that.
Mhm.
If we're talking about working together, I think I was quite surprised, like you already mentioned, that this new government of the EVP, but also the Social Democrats, the SPA, but also the Liberals, the Neos, that they actually got together so fast and actually formed a coalition. So it's kind of hard even to keep track of what they're actually about and what they're doing, besides what we already know about these parties. What do you think that we can expect of this new coalition that is now happening?
For me, not really not the best. And one thing is that I also have always to mention, especially in international media, it's now, I guess, now I'm pretty sure it's the third chancellor that we will have who has not been elected. So
Mhm.
it's undemocratic what there is going on. And for me, I don't expect a lot of positive things, as you just heard. They are, for me, they are thinking about their roles, what they can do, and I'm not pretty sure that there will be something going on forward for the Austrian population. So
Mhm.
and they are, as I always said, or as I said at the beginning, they don't accept other opinions. They don't accept other points of view. They want to go on with the old system. Let's call it like this.
Mhm.
So I don't really expect a lot of it. And the only way would have been to ask once again the Austrians, and there should
Mhm.
have been new elections, because now we have a group of also really important actors who has never been elected.
Mhm. It's a very good point that you're making here. I think we have something similar in the Netherlands. Our prime minister also was not chosen once. In fact, nobody even knew about him a few weeks before he got chosen. So again, I think the Dutch and the Austrians can relate on this. So you say it will be a lot of the same. So, for example, I think there are a few important topics. I'm curious what you think about what will happen. We, of course, let's start with immigration. What do you think that this coalition will do in immigration moving forward?
So, sorry also to say that now, but it's always like the same. Like first they speak, they mention some new ideas, but in the end, nothing changes. It goes on in the same direction. So that is always, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, because it's fault of the European Union. You find
Hmm.
every excuse. So there are no hardliners. And now in this time, we need really those parties who decide, who have an opinion, who say stop, who say it's enough. And I also use the newest, the baddest word ever, I guess, existed, the remigration. We have to work on this. We have to really act and not to react anymore. Too
Hmm.
many people died, too many things happened, and so it's now that we have to act and not to react always.
Hmm.
And also thinking about, it's possible in our nation to change the laws, to think about it, and not then searching an excuse why we can't do it, because maybe the European Union would say something. No, stay strong and stay
Hmm.
together and do this.
Hmm. All right. So if I summarize it, I think you're saying basically they were not going to stop immigration. They might talk about it a little bit, but actually, for what actually matters, that changing policy, you will not see a lot
No.
happening. I think another topic that a lot of people find important, of course, is when it comes to climate policy, energy policy. This is, of course, also for our economies, very important. You already mentioned the recession in Austria. What do you think that will happen when it comes to the climate policy?
The climate policy, we are one in Austria. We are always the first to try to do something that is also a little bit mentioned in the European Union. They are waiting what we are now going to decide because, as you heard, something is like a little bit now here also in the European Union, some changes that somebody could wait 1 year longer.
Hmm.
We will go on fighting for this. They will stop all the changes, all the laws that they had in the last years, but otherwise they will go on and they will ruin our industry. They will ruin our small companies, and there will be a huge unemployment all over Europe if we are going on like this.
Hmm.
Now we have a new enemy. They are all now thinking about what's going on in America. And so, but they don't concentrate on Europe. We have to remember them first comes Europe, then comes the rest of the world, and that is what is
Hmm.
our role here in the European Parliament.
It's fair. I think that's a good point. I'm curious because you mentioned America. Of course, I think one thing you can say about Trump, either you love him or hate him. I think that this for sure has been true. What do you think? What is your perception of what's happening now in America? Because at least you can say that a lot of things are changing. That is a fact for sure.
As you said, a lot of things are changing, and he's also it's what I always respect. If a person is elected in a country, there will be a very good reason why they did it, and I think he's now. It's not a long time that he is now the official president. He got elected a little bit before, but you can see he he does that what he promised to do. That's what I'm impressed always of. Or as
Hmm.
you say, I agree or don't. And I'm not afraid of it. But if we are go on sleeping like this in Europe, we will lose all the rest of our power. That's
Hmm.
it's not a lot anymore. But if we are going on, and yes, and we should not be concentrated on hating a president. We should try to
Hmm.
have a dialogue with him. It's for me
Hmm.
really also shocking to see that some of the European leaders he didn't even invite him. So
Hmm.
it's what I'm thinking about. Where is the way of a conversation? You have to talk to him.
Hmm.
You have to negotiate with him, and not exclude him. And not exclude him always.
Good point. And you mentioned the future of Europe. I think I'm curious what you think about this. Of course, I talk to lot of right wing politicians, thought leaders, etc. One of the questions I always try to ask how you're thinking about the future of Austria, but also a little bit bigger of Europe. Are you positive about it or more negative? And what do you expect for the future that we are holding?
We as a party, and I guess also the rest of the patriots, we have always said that the most important thing for us are our nations, and that is also the strength of Europe, that we have different nations, and we should concentrate more all our power of the European Union in only the most important topics, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of money that we spend for. So we have clear positions also as a FPÖ, that we have the reduction in the European Union competences in favor of the national states, that
Hmm.
we reject also here decisions that we can or that we have yes a more national um, importance, and then I will be once again very optimistic. Otherwise, sorry, but if it goes on like this, I'm not very optimistic. If it goes in the other way around, what they are doing now, also in the foreign policy, how,
Hmm.
and also if some parties are always excluded, and there is no dialogue. So no, I'm not very optimistic.
I can imagine. I think a lot of people would agree with you that there's at least something in the air of people wanting change. I think that's for sure positive, but we still have to see if we can also make these big changes in Europe. Now let's switch over a little bit to the European part. We're already talking a little bit about this, but of course you're not only working, of course, with specifically the Austrian situation, but like you already mentioned, you're part of Patriots for Europe. That's what the group that FPO is part of. How do you feel like when you have to deal with other groups? Of course, there are also other right-wing groups like ECR, for example. How do you think that your group is perceived? And also, of course, your own party specifically. And how do you feel like these coalitions and where you can collaborate with other parties? How do you think that's going so far?
So far, as you see, we try to work together with other groups, but in the end, they are not. They are, I call it, afraid to stand strong, and it's not logical that we are in a group and we representative. That's what I said before. That we think about. Our nations first, but we have the topics that we totally agree on in our group. That is to reject, for example, illegal migration, that we stop the Green Deal, all what ruins the nations. And so we agree on certain point, but it's also fine that we, in some decisions, we say, no, we can't agree on this or that, and this is what is happening in our group. So I think it's also here. We are the best example, once again, for the freedom of speech. You have your own opinion. That's what we are fighting for.
Fair enough. I think it's unfortunate because, of course, we have, like I said, we have a few right-wing groups. It would be nice if there would be more working together, because definitely the left-wing groups and the center left-wing groups are all working together, like you already mentioned. I also think, what do you think are now the biggest challenges in making change in Brussels? What do we need in Brussels to get some of these policies that most right-wing people would agree on? Like you already mentioned a few. What do we need in Europe to make this change? Because that's the next step, I would say.
I would say that it's the most important thing, as I said before, that the European Union is an economic union, that we point on this. It's focusing mainly on the internal market and also certain areas such as transport. And as I said before, our most important issue is now to talk about immigration and say stop. And this is the most important thing at the moment. We can stay together, and as you said before, it's also, we are now here not even for a year, but there are now some decisions made also with between the ECR, between also that they agree on certain topics. So I guess it takes some time again, and also then there are always questions in the nations. Maybe if the other groups are becoming stronger and stronger, so there will be here. What I heard and what I see, there is nothing always fixed. There are a lot of changes during also the 5 years. So maybe we become bigger, and so I hope that some of us, the colleagues from other right-wing parties, will join our group, and so that we have a really strong right-wing part in the European Parliament.
What do you think then? Of course, one of the big topics, I think, both on the left and on the right, has been that Europe is turning more right-wing, not only in the Netherlands or Austria. I think you already mentioned AfD, who now became the second party in Germany. There are many other countries that we can mention which have now a strong right-wing influence, like, for example, France, as an example. Do you see that this will continue, that we will see in continual growth in right-wing parties? Or do you feel like if people get disappointed now with right-wing parties, that it will again be turned for left-wing parties to grow?
No, I think especially also turning once again on the new situation about alternative media. So the people inform themselves. They are not like once upon a time that there is one radio station, one television, and so they become more. They get more informations. And I think that no, we are growing, and yes, we know that the standardized parties are more afraid of these dynamics. They can see it, and you can also hear it here in the speeches when they are in the European Parliament. And so, no, I'm here. I'm really optimistic that we are becoming stronger and more.
That's great. I think that's a very maybe optimistic point to end our interview. I'm curious if people want to follow more what the FPÖ is doing, or specifically what you are doing. Where can people actually find out to find more information?
It's easy to find more information. Also, we have our all the social media. I don't know, from Instagram to whatever you want, and we have our homepages. And so we are. I'm always happy if somebody finds me on the homepage of the European Parliament, so they can write to me and we can get in contact. I have a great team, and they are also here to help me with getting in contact, because this is the most important thing. Also, as which is sometimes said, that the members of the European Parliament are not present anymore in their home countries. No, I'm every weekend in my region in Austria, so I participate also there in the. Not only in whatever you call in the reunions of my group, but also in the normal way of life. I'm present. I'm still around in my home city, and so that is where you can find me and where you can talk to me.
Great. That's always important. It's especially if you're fighting for your country. It's good to stay connected, literally, to your own home country. So I can imagine that. I really want to thank you for your time and also sharing some, I think, light on the Austrian situation that you will hardly hear in the Dutch media. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. See you. Goodbye.
See you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.